Life Check Yourself with Dr. Corey Allan. Marriage, mindset, and change. How to build strong, lasting relationships. Welcome, ladies, to the episode of Life Check Yourself. I'm here with Dr. Corey Allan, who's telling me he's pretty cash, so you don't need to have the doctor part.
Yeah, not at all.
I have a trauma because I one time called a woman that I thought was my friend who was, I didn't call her doctor, her name. And so she kind of got mad. So I really appreciate that you.
Well, the only time I require you to use the word doctor is if you're going to say something derogatory immediately thereafter.
I love that. That's so great. Well, Corey Allan, also a doctor, is a husband, father, author, speaker, and a marriage and family therapist. He's got a PhD, which is a big deal in family therapy. And his wife, Pam, together they host a weekly podcast that you guys want to check out called Sexy Marriage Radio, which I love. And they help people frame conversations and actions that help couples create a marriage that is alive and lasts. I love that. Well, I've been married this time for 16 years. My first go was 17. When you would have asked me, if you would have asked me when I first got married to my second husband, like, you know, is this one going to, like, will I make it that long? Just because it felt so scary to get married the second time. Mm-hmm. I feel like I should get like a gold medal when I hit 17 years. Like,
it would be a milestone. That's a good deal.
I know. It's kind of crazy. And also, like, looking back at pictures of my husband and I, when we first started dating, I was like, damn, I look young. Oh, wait, that was a long time ago. So I'm happy to be in that club. So tell me, what got you, like, were you always focused on relationship? Is that what got you into wanting to do this kind of work and getting a PhD in it? Like, how did you come by way of this profession and expertise?
Well, I started, undergrad was the route of youth and family ministry with the intent of I would do that for a little bit and then just transition into the counseling therapy world. At that point, it was going to be largely teenagers and families. And then we had a 3-year, the depths of our relationship, the darkness, if you will, because of a betrayal on my part that just sent us we got to reevaluate ourselves, each other, everything. And so after a 3-year stint in the business world where I realized, nope, this isn't me, I went back to school, which was already part of the plan. And then at that point, it became marriage, just because it's like we saw the value of what we were working on, what we were learning. And it just seemed that if you can work with the couple, everyone that they live around benefits. So yeah, that's what I've been going after.
Well, so you said, so when we were talking about this interview, you're like, you can ask me whatever you want. So I will. So I talk to a lot of clients and people that are in their second long-term relationship, and some of them aren't married. You know, they're not choosing to do that. And I feel like the big challenge for a lot of them is so much more afraid to leave the second time, especially if they're not married. And often, like, are they settling, right, because of that? Or is it not a match? And so there's this, I just see this, like, giving it like the try that you seem to have with your partner when you were married, in a relationship that doesn't have that kind of commitment. And I'm just curious what your opinion is on that. How do you know whether you stay or go? Like, how do you navigate through that? Because your money isn't separate. You don't have kids together, right? Like, all the reasons why some couples do stay together, it's gone. So how do you navigate through that? What are questions that you ask?
Wow, there's a lot in there, Marnie.
I know. That's why I asked.
So if you're just talking about a couple that's been together for a long time, depending on the state they're in, it's common law, possibly on marriage. What
if they don't even live together?
Well, then that's a different component as well, as for sure. And that's where you start getting all these different nuances in there. So it's the stay or go. Man, that happens particularly when there's big things, obviously, when there's repeated things, there's chronic things. But if we're honest about it, every single day could be a question of should I stay or should I go? I mean, even in good marriages, that's the case because we get caught up in the scenario of how am I what I'm fighting about oftentimes in my experience is I'm fighting for the spouse I wish I had or the partner I wish I had, not another person, but who I wish they were, rather than I'm actually working with who they are.
That's so profound. And do people believe that because of how this person showed up in the beginning, or is it a potential that they've always seen in the person?
Well, I think it's both. I think a potential you see in a person is putting a really good, positive Disneyland almost spin on the thing.
Right.
I think the more reality of it is yes, some of it is that we're on our best behaviors when we meet each other. You know, I refer to that as that's our marketing departments getting to know each other.
Right.
And the sales office comes in and they kind of try to seal the deal for a little bit longer. And then you get further into the back office, and that's when the real relationship begins because that's the people that are running the people. So I think some of that it's based on what the initial thing was. But then I think there's also this idealized what I think I want in you. And if you would only fill in the blank for this, I would then be comfortable, safe, secure, romantic, whatever, rather than, it doesn't work that way. I mean, it's a component that's going on, but we spend so much time in relationship turmoil because we spend so much time working on what's missing rather than how do I face what's actually present between us? Well, who is this person I'm in a relationship with, good and bad, because we're all both. And if I can see it that way, I think it's a more real relationship.
Yeah, that's so great. So then what questions do you ask yourself or your partner to understand that if the negative means you're not a match, or if it means I need to and we need to keep shifting, adjusting, trying, all of that.
So some of this I think is answered depending on the chronological age of the relationship.
Interesting.
If it's early, then it's greater likelihood something that could come up that's just not a match, right? It's a nuance, it's a quirk, it's an ideal or a preference or a wiring, if you will, that it's like, yeah, there's lots of parts of you that are really good, but those two or three, we just don't see close enough together because this isn't eye to eye, but it's just, we're not even close. And so those are the short-lived relationships that usually naturally just run their course and move on. If it's longer in a relationship and then these things start coming up, one, that's supposed to happen. Right. Because long-term relationships, as they evolve, new things appear.
Right.
Because, and it's not because they've been hiding it. It's because something's been born in them. You know, something's changed in them possibly. And so it's a shift and it impacts you. And so I believe in the kind of theoretical idea that we meet and fall in love with people that make sense to us. They do life in a similar enough way that it makes sense. And that doesn't mean they're structured and they're disciplined like I am, or they're clean like I am. It just means their outlook on life, family, relationship, the world, people is close enough that we kind of have a joint, we kind of understand each other. And if that's the case, then something comes up. Well, then you have to start asking yourself the questions of, okay, is something changed in me that actually is creating this? Have I shifted an outlook? Have I kind of gotten into something deeper on? I mean, I know your story because you were on my show of, hey, what if we just sold almost everything and we went and traveled for a while? And one of you had never shared that. And it freaks the other person out because what they want and know is I grew up in the same house till I graduated college. And then I moved into a house and I'm not leaving that one ever. And so there's a fundamental difference now when you were like on board with it. And now all of a sudden you bring up, I think I really want to travel. So it's going to cause an issue.
No, that's cool. So I want to ask you about internal shifts too, because if I have clients that come to me and like they're in a relationship and they start working with me, and now all of a sudden they're getting their voice and they're starting to speak and they have needs and they have boundaries. And before they were kind of like the agreeable, people pleasing, wet mop in the relationship. And the guy's like, ooh, I don't really like this. I liked it when I could kind of control you and you just wanted to make me happy all the time. So it could be an internal awakening, not just like
absolutely.
We want different external things in our life.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the bigger things that cause the most riff, because it's an idea of, wait a second, now I'm having to really orient towards relating to a different person in some ways. And what's odd to me about this, Marnie, is a lot of times, if I'm honest with myself, that's probably what I would want in the long run anyway, is somebody that truly will come back at me. Because the best marriages to me are two fully functioning people. The best relationships are that way.
Good.
Two fully functioning people that live together with the better of themselves spilling over, rather than I'm relying on you like a barnacle relies on its host.
Well, so, okay, this is so great. I love we're unpacking the details of this. So, because I see these as like almost like an org. You said The Office, and I was seeing an org chart in my mind. So one person starts to change, and we do both have to grow. So the problems, I would imagine, are then if the one person's changing, the other person is like, no. And then they don't do their work to also change. So that's kind of where the pieces can't fit back together. Is that?
Yeah. When that happens, that's a fundamental systemic process, right? Where all of a sudden one person makes a change, so it's going to impact the system. So now the other person is left with a couple of choices. One is we will send, a lot of times unconsciously, initially, change back messages, right? That's the hypothetical story I tell all the time is somebody decides that, let's say a couple's both overweight, out of shape, and their favorite times they spend together is Ben and Jerry's ice cream with their favorite shows, right? That's how they spend their evenings. And so let's say she decides, you know what? I don't want to be this anymore. I can kind of forecast the future. I don't like it. And so she doesn't make a big announcement. She just starts going on a diet, starts going walking at night. She still sits and watches some shows, but doesn't eat the Ben and Jerry's or starts eating less. And now all of a sudden she starts feeling better about herself, because typically when we kind of live within a discipline and a decision we've made, it really is a huge boost to ourselves.
Yes.
And so as that keeps going, and she starts losing more weight and getting more fit, it's likely then she's going to carry herself differently and then therefore start to be seen as a different attractive level to other people. Well, guess who's watching and seeing this happen? All of a sudden now he's going to be freaking out going, wait a second. Now everybody's noticing you. I don't like this. And so it's very likely he will make sure, just subtly, the absolute favorite show and absolute favorite Ben and Jerry's will be available for her. Right. And it's not necessarily a full-on cruel move, but it could be, because it's like, I don't like what you're doing because of how it's impacting me. And so we try to get them to change so that I don't have to. So that's one. The other is we just start drifting further apart. Because we're living parallel lives. And sometimes it takes a while before critical mass actually is met, where it really does create and cultivate the change in the other person to do something different. Or I'm having to look at myself and change. And it's not necessarily just like what they do exactly. He doesn't have to go on a diet, but maybe he needs to carry himself different. Maybe he picks up a different hobby, because then that's both creating lives that are worth being around more.
Wow. It's so profound, like how there's so many layers to all of these things. And if you're not attentive to all the layers, then it can feel like you wake up one day and you're like, who are you? Or is it always like a slow burn knowing that we just pretend not to know about, and until something happens? How do most of these things usually fall?
Well, I mean, all systems operate within the rules that they're created. I mean, that's a fundamental truth. And then it's also interesting, and this is oftentimes a kick in the teeth to people. All systems are designed to get exactly the results they get. too. So if I'm continually frustrated in some relationship, well, it's because I'm cultivating and helping co-create a system that's creating that somehow. It's not just my partner. It's also me. So if I will do better at examining me, I can then, that's the only thing I can change in the system. Because we spend so much time trying to change the other person. Well, why wouldn't you do this? Or how about you do this? Or rather than, wait a second, why do I sit around and wait for them? What if I just met them there instead? What if, whatever it could be, that it's just you kind of shifting your perspective of who you are in the dynamic, which then empowers you, which then changes the relationship. And so, I mean, I always think of things as systems. That's my training completely, but that's the way I was even before that, it seems too. And systems just make sense as far as some just principles that are at play. And so I need to be better at doing my part of that dynamic better. That's all I can do.
Right. Within the system, because you are part of the system. Because I always say, like, when I'm focused on just blame or criticism, what am I doing to perpetuate that in the other person? Which I think we talked about when I was on your show. Okay, let me ask you another question. Do you think that when people come to therapy, because that's pretty much, you're doing that all the time, do you think, because I hear people say women are the ones that are being like, we need to fix this and it's your fault. Is that true? Or do men come in and, because they're like, the therapist will tell me I'm right and tell you you're wrong. Right? Like,
well, I think there's a kind of, I don't know if I can say majority, but there's a big group of us. I'll put myself in this category because my wife and I have been to therapy a couple different times throughout the 32 years almost of our marriage. So we're advocates of it. I think there's an element of, if I'm brutally honest with myself, I'm going to therapy, I'm going to couples therapy with the hopes that my partner will change.
Yeah.
Because I think it would just be easier for me if they will. Yeah. Right. And so I think that's a component, but it used to be, and I think right now, more accurately speaking, it's going to be geographically specific, because some areas it's more in vogue than others. There's still, I'm in the Midwest. And so there's still a taboo-ness at times with some people, like, oh, I can't. No, I'm like, seriously, come on, dude. You were raised in a family, so everybody needs it, because everybody's raised in a family and all families are dysfunctional to some degree. But it probably is going to be more topic specific on who's driving it, because whoever's the higher desire on said topic is the one that's usually the most frustrated, because whoever's the lower desire on that topic is oftentimes the gatekeeper for it. And so they're trapped without
talking about sex,
money. Fits
money
too.
Oh yeah. Okay. I was like, are you just talking about sex?
Travel? I mean, sex for sure, because whoever's the lower desire in that equation is the gatekeeper, whether they like it or not.
Right.
And so oftentimes I get a lot of people that are the higher desires, like, how do I get my spouse to want to have more sex? Good question. You find an answer, let me know.
Exactly. So good. I love that. Okay. Well, I'd love to talk about sex. By the way, I just had a coaching call with this woman. She was so amazing. And she said, I'm just going to put this out as a public service announcement, and you can tell me what you think. She's older and single, but and had a relationship with this guy, and she was married unhappily for like 35 years. And she said, I love about this guy is that he made me feel seen. He was persistent, passionate, and patient.
That's good.
And then she said, and his penis worked.
Oh, that's the quadruple header right there. That's good.
That's what I said. I was like, the 4 P's of good sex. So I'll just say that. Be persistent, patient, and passionate. Okay. I want to talk about attachment styles.
Okay.
Because I want to know your opinion on them, because I feel like some people come in, they're like, here's what I am, so I need this, and that's just the way it is, and I'm avoidant, and so that's just the way I am. And if therefore, yada, yada, yada. I don't know. And so I have always, I've had a somewhat different opinion maybe. So what's yours on all of this? Is it flexible?
So now I'm intrigued on what's yours. So you want me to go first? Is what you're saying here?
Yeah, you go first. Because you are officially a PhD expert in family systems, and I'm just a lowly coach who has an opinion. Who's read a lot of books.
So there's two. I go two different ways with the whole world of attachment.
Okay.
One is it's an adequate framework in some ways to help kind of get a better picture of yourself and your style.
Okay.
That's as far as I'll go with it, though. It's not at all a prescription on what your relationship should be.
Right.
Because if you actually followed through the theory of attachment styles and got in the situations where you're creating fusion more than you are independence within a relationship. And that's the biggest desire killer there is in any relationship, is where we're too close to each other. We're too interwoven and too dependent, and we become one brain, one mind. And if you have a divergent opinion or you don't act the way you're supposed to, it's disastrous. I crumble, I cater, all that. And it's like, come on, we're much more powerful than that as individuals. And so I think it's beneficial to do maybe some work. It's also the most popular theory out there in the field right now. So it's thrown around everywhere. I get a lot of clients that'll come in, same thing. Oh, I'm anxious avoidant. Oh, really? Okay. So what does that say about you?
Well, that's just it. I mean, because I've had a client once told me like, I'm anxious avoidant. And so, that's just the way sort of I am. And I was like, but I also think that you've dated men who may have also been sort of that way. And so what if you were in a relationship with a healthy person? Would you also be less anxious? And would
I look at it opposite though. Okay. It's like, okay, so if you're anxious avoidant and you're going to relate to somebody that makes sense in that regard, what does that allow you to actually confront in you to deal with your anxious and avoidant and no longer be that?
Well, right. Because it's something that is not, what's the right word? It's not like you have this blood type and therefore that's just what you are.
Right.
It's just a way to notice your patterns.
Yeah. And that's opportunity, because I believe relationships are designed to expose me to me.
Right. And they are.
And when I can see me better and realize, okay, wait, this thing right here freaks me out. Okay, so then I can, through the process of systematic desensitization, if you go psychological here, I can learn to get less freaked out and still face that and actually be a better person because I've done that. Or what's happened far too often, in my opinion, is we've allowed all of the little T traumas to become big T traumas.
Say more about that.
People are paralyzed. I mean, so that word gets thrown around a lot, and that's where our attachment styles is kind of in some ways designed to help make sense of, okay, here's why. Here's how you can understand why that hit you this way, because you were looking for, or you were around this, or your parents did this, or whatever, I get it. I do family of origin work a lot with clients too, never to blame, but to understand who you are and how you became who you are.
Right.
That's the point. But there are, I think you and I can agree, there are true capital T, diagnosable, reportable trauma in life.
Yes.
Right. These are typically things that are abusive, neglectful. I mean, death, possibly, the severe things.
Yes. Capital T.
Right. Then there's the couple of times I got forgotten after school as a 7th grader.
Right.
If I'm a 1st grader, that's a different thing.
Right.
But if I'm a 7th grader and I know where my house is and I have a phone, that's a trauma, but it's not capital T.
Right.
It's little t. Well, I'm sorry. If you want to wield that around, how is that serving you? It's not. Because that's the whole thing of that whole world and verbiage largely starts to become the tyranny of the lowest common denominator.
What does that mean? Say more. Yeah, say more.
We can't go do that because I'll get triggered. It's like, well, maybe you need to be triggered.
Yes, I see what you mean. Yeah, so you're just saying that people are so obtusely
right, and I'm meaning that statement only with the little T ones, not with the big T. Because if you're going to tackle big T, do it with professional help. Because that's somebody that will help you walk alongside and make it a systematic kind of thing to slowly build your muscle to face that beast and then put it away and incorporate it and digest it into your world. And then you are a much stronger person than you ever thought possible. That's what I see day in, day out. My clients are the most courageous people in the world because they tackle some beasts and they come out the other end looking completely different because they realize what they're capable of. And so if you look at it through that lens, it's seeing it as the little T's, they matter. I'm not trying to diminish it. Those are big deals. Yep. But somebody else, it's not their job to protect you from those things.
Right.
That's where it starts becoming the lowest common denominator of, no, I can't do that because this happened there. And come on, it's time to face that. Yeah, they forgot your order at the store. I get it. It happens. And yeah, I get it. But let's keep going. Otherwise, we're limiting where we can go.
Right. That's so amazing. So good. I always know I say this all the time. I always know it's a great episode. And I'm like, I know 10 people I want to listen to this episode. Just saying. So when people, and I'm really curious about this because when people come to you and they've been married for over 15 years, let's say, and then you look at someone who's like dating and nobody's good enough, right? Like and how do you talk about that with people? Because I hear so many single people be like, nobody's married is happy, or no one in a long term, I don't need to work that hard, or, like they have to be this and this and this and these other 17 things because I'm not going to put up with little T's. Yeah. So what do you see out there in the world? And what would you say to that, being married for 30 years and seeing lots of people who walk through the fire?
Well, if that kind of a person shows up into my office and starts going through their litmus test of why they are still single, and they start explaining their preference list and their do's and don'ts and their must be's and all the 4 P's and all those things, right? If they've got a really, really long list, I am a blunt, in your face therapist. So
I love that about you.
I would likely say, I'm wondering, let's talk about you, because it seems like you are very, very particular, which makes it very difficult to be in a relationship with. So you're basically getting exactly what you're bringing.
Yeah, which is nothing.
It's something that's could never be satisfied by another human being.
Yeah. And that's so true. And I think for all those people that are married and don't want to deal with what's going on in their relationship and fantasize, I'll just go get someone else. I always say everybody is somebody else's asshole. So just remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think of it as every committed relationship has gridlock problems, which those are just defined by what I want is blocked by what my partner wants. Every couple's going to have them. If you're in a committed monogamous relationship, because usually these are surrounding sex in most instances, but there's also elements that they can play out in other areas too. But if I'd think, I can just go with somebody else, then I'm just exchanging 10 gridlock problems for 10 gridlock problems. That's it.
Reality check.
Yeah, because I'm the common denominator. One of my very first clients was an older lady. She's probably in her 60s at that time. And this would have been 23 years ago-ish. And she was on her 5th marriage, I think. And she was like, I just need help in finding better men. And she started talking more and more. And I was like, okay, hold on a second. How about let's talk about the common denominator here, which is you, ma'am. And it kind of took her aback. And she was like, you could kind of see these darts coming out of her eyes. Like, I don't know if I like you, young man, because I was not 53 like I am now, sitting here talking to you. But as we talked, I love it because she finally was like, I like you. You don't dance around. I'm like, well, then let's go. Come on. So it's just because that's the stuff I can hold out hope for what I wish people were forever. And nothing will change. I can start looking at what do I wish I was? What if I got my own house in order? Because we all know where we fall short, where we let things slide, where I don't show up fully. What if I actually took on one of those bad boys and conquered it? Now all of a sudden I'm boosting and I'll present something different to the people I'm trying to attract. It'll be seen or it won't, but I'll feel better. Doesn't matter.
And that what you said, I think, is the golden thread is like, but I'll feel better. And then it's like
I'll have my own confidence. I'll put my head on the pillow knowing I did the most of the day. I did self-respecting things here that I'm good with. And that's what I think creates great marriages too, is I do self-respecting things because that also brings into the equation the people I care about are part of self-respecting.
That's so good. Okay, I have another question for you. Is it possible? You have kids, right?
Yeah, we have two. We're almost empty nesters. Our oldest graduates next week. Woo-hoo! I mean, I'm sorry, our youngest graduates from high school next week. So,
oh my God, welcome to the club.
Yes,
it's crazy. When people are dating and they have kids, because I've also seen this a lot. And maybe someone has kids, maybe they had a different relationship with their kids. But when I was dating my husband, I was like, I'm like, my priority is my kids and my family. And they were young at the time, but I was like, they are my priority. Like, because I think there's some people that be like, oh no, your partner is your priority and your kids come second. And so I think that's a huge, like, just values gap. And you probably want to find someone who's aligned, but I don't think anyone's necessarily right or wrong, but what's your opinion on that? Cause I see lots of couples that are, again, in that like second relationship being like, hey, you're not making enough time for me, or, why do your kids more?
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance in this thing because there's not going to be a definitive, this is it. This is clear cut. It's going to be more in how are people showing up.
Ooh, okay. So what are some of the nuances of that?
Well, it's that idea of if I say my priority are my kids, and metaphorically speaking, they don't know my name.
Right, exactly.
My priority is not true. I'm just full of hot air.
Right.
If I claim I'm a good father and I'm never engaged, it's not true. So it's actions. That's where the nuances play out. And I think you can do both, because typically if I'm now co-parenting because I'm in a new relationship, well, then they have the other parent too. And so how do I coordinate that situation better? And how do I also figure out how to be civil and respectful of their parent,
right,
that I co-created these kids with,
right,
while in presence with this new relationship? And how am I not bad-mouthing their parent with this new person, because that doesn't make me look good? And, so it's just the nuance comes in that I think we are capable as human beings, in the sophistication we have, to have lots of priorities at the same time, and values. And so it's when I'm with my partner, am I with them? Right? Because I think this is a rule I use in marriage. My wife benefits, I believe, because it works in reverse too, of 20 minutes of 100% of my presence more than she does of an hour of 50% of my presence.
Oh yeah, I'm so down
right.
with that.
I'm there and I'm working, I'm on the phone, I'm watching a show, and we're talking every so often. But if I'm like, hey, honey, let's go on a 20-minute walk, you and me, we'll take the dog, and it's just us. That's relationship driven. And I could do that with my kids. I used to do this with my son when he was little. I'd walk past his room and he's playing Legos. I'd go in the middle of a busy day, spend 5 minutes playing Legos with him. Just lay on the floor. Let's build some things. I'm like, all right, buddy, I got to get back to a call. Okay. And I go. I think he benefits from that rather than I'm hanging on his bed scrolling through something while he's laying on the floor playing with his Legos. That's meaningless in some ways. I'm there. It's better than not being at all involved. So there's the nuances, right? So it's kind of looking at it through my intentionality, my presence, my engagement, and then my ability to transition to the next things that I need to still do.
Amazing. I think that's so true. I'm such a fan of the walk and talk. I'm so happy that the sun's going down later, because when it goes down at 5 o'clock, you're like,
it's way too early.
Yeah,
it's way too early to go walking.
And I'd be like, come on, let's get our jackets on and go for a walk. It's such a game changer. I have another question. What do you think about if couples don't live together, or they're not moving toward living together? Do you think in today's situation that healthy couples of, again, second chapter, whatever, can you have does it mean it's bad if you're not wanting to?
Yeah, I don't know if I can adequately speak to that. That's not something I experience much being a marriage therapist. I'll have couples that don't live together because they are possibly on the outs. And so they have taken the route of separate locations to just try to reset, figure out what I want. I'm okay with the separation when major stuff has gone on, because it elicits multiple things. One, it lets each of you kind of breathe, because there's things going on both sides that need to likely be addressed. Because if you talk about it, most often this happens in the instances of betrayals.
Yeah.
Or if there's some chronic thing that finally enough is enough. But most often the focus becomes on the betrayed, and they have all the power, rather than, wait a second, what about the person that did the betraying? And what really matters to me is they did that to themselves. They didn't do it to you. They did it to themselves. So what does that say about them? How do they reorg that? Are they okay with that? Was it actually an integrity hit and character hit, or that's secretly who they've been all along and they're finally just acting it out? So you gotta have a little bit of time to breathe that thing out.
Nice.
And so that can give you a little bit of a break. And I encourage couples that are married to do this in-house, because it's just cheaper. Just move into a different room. Yeah, but the kids are going to ask questions. Yeah, they're going to ask questions anyway, because they're going to feel the tension. So we don't hide this stuff. It's contagious. I have a bad day. It's contagious. Everybody knows. Same with my wife, right? So I think it's okay, because it allows room to breathe, and then it also opens up to your community to have support, possibly, because most of the time we suffer in silence and secret. And
there's so much.
But if it's a vibrant relationship and they like each other, but I just really like my own life too, well, who am I to say that's bad? I mean,
oh man, I love it. I mean, it's 2025. People are doing all sorts of crazy.
It's not a value system I have personally, but professionally, I'm not going to talk somebody out of something that they want to choose in life. That's not my place.
I love it. Well, first of all, everyone, this was the best 45 minutes you spent in your life. So just note that, subscribe and all of that stuff. You can listen to Dr. Corey Allan at Sexy Marriage Radio on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Are you on Spotify and all that stuff too, right?
Yeah, if you just Google Sexy Marriage Radio, it'll be the first thing you see. We've been going for over 13 years, so we've been on the air for a long, long time as a podcast. So there's some 700 as of today that we're recording, was 728.
I love that. It's such a good show. I'm going to tell my client, the 4 Ps originator, to listen to that one.
Nice.
Where can people find you so that they can get some support in their marriage?
Yeah, my home is smr.fm. So it's very simple. As in Sexy Marriage Radio is what it stands for. And then as in FM, like the radio. So smr.fm. That's where everything originates from. That's where everything I reside in. I have a membership site and a free site of just a community that's incredibly supportive and engaged. So that you can find all that information there too.
smr.fm.
Yep.
Love it. I hope to have you back. This was so
anytime.
fun.
This has been fun.
I have not been married 32 years, but I have collectively been married almost 32 years.
That's good. Hey, marriage is marriage. There's a lot of things that happen that are similar. Just people are not as vital to what happens as it just happens in relationships.
Yeah, no, and obviously I was in my 20s. I got married because the guy asked, but what I really love is that my ex-husband, I feel like now he's like my brother, because he's like, I've known him since I was 19, and we did a good job raising our kids and all of that. But yeah, it's I feel really proud that I did the work and that I'm married and doing all that stuff, and that our paths have crossed is just a blessing, because I've learned so much. It's going to be hard for me to wait till this one's produced to send it out. That's how good I'm like, can I just download this and send it to some people? SMR.FM, Dr. Corey Allan. Remember, and he said it himself, you are the common denominator. So whatever, always, not always, don't forget, life check yourself. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.
Hey, thanks for tuning in today. Listen, if you're feeling stuck, I want you to know you're not alone, and you don't have to settle for it. I've created a free quiz to help you pinpoint what's draining your energy and exactly how you can fix it. So head over to decodeyourdestinyquiz.com and take the 60-second quiz right now. That's decodeyourdestinyquiz.com. And if you're ready to dive deeper, you can book a free no-obligation consultation at marniebatista.com/private coaching. That's Marnie, M-A-R-N-I, Batista, B-A-T-T-I-S, as in Sam, T-A.com/private coaching, all one word. Let's take the first step to creating a life you love on your terms. I'm Marnie, and I'll see you next time.